Hello everyone. I want to thank you all of coming today. My name is Joe, President of the Korean American Association of Visual World. Due to the unfortunate events that occurred a couple of weeks ago, we have come to support each other and take the necessary steps for our voice to be heard. Up next, the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody stand up and turn around to the flags at the Rose Garden.
In 1892, the pledge was written, and it's only 31 words. It shows our loyalty to the United States of America. Place your hands over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. The pastor, Johan Tachi, will pray for us.
I would invite us to be in prayer, please. Most wondrous God, from the beginning you have found delight in all your creatures. You declare your work to be good. As we seek your presence here, God, shake us from the slumber of apathy and routine and awaken us to the promise of this day, fresh and full of possibility. Ground us in your presence and steadfast love. Center us in the knowledge of your grace. Kindle in us a new excitement for this awesome journey to which you call us. And may your divine presence be our guide this day and always. Amen.
Before we speakers, I thank to Mr. Randy Ankini, the Executive Director of GRF, and Casey Ayer, Assistant Manager of the Recreation Department of GRF, for greatly contribution to this event. All I appreciate it if all speakers can keep it under 3 minutes each, the sake of time and schedule. Thank you. And now, the Virginia Olenek reading the statement on the hate crime.
Good morning, everyone. This is from the Davis Community Church statement. As Christians, we deplore all forms of violence and hate against anyone. Hate and violence are incompatible with the gospel of Jesus and destructive toward our efforts to foster a thriving human community. The killings in Atlanta, including the deaths of 6 Asian American women, are part of an appalling trend toward AAPI communities, Asian American and Pacific Islander, AAPI. During the pandemic, Asian Americans have already been experiencing racist hostility and violence. Our country's long history of anti-Asian xenophobia, the rising tide of violence against Asian Americans over the past year, and the deadly attacks on Tuesday, March 16th, must not go unanswered. Our Christian faith and our shared humanity summons us to speak and take action. Silence is complicity. Silence hurts, and silence kills. We must speak clearly about what is happening. We will not tolerate anti-Asian hate in our nation or our community. To all our AAPI siblings, you are not alone. We stand with you. We will protect your rights and dignity and safety, and we will leverage whatever resources we can to dismantle white supremacy and heal our nation. And we encourage everyone to become more educated about Asian American history and the current movement to end anti-Asian violence. Together, we must face our violent history, protect each other through the painful present, and work to build a community rooted ever more deeply in justice and love.
Thank you. Up next, the first speaker is Michelle Barksdale, Congresswoman.
Thank you everybody here. And you know what, I hope that it was a great event that we want to celebrate instead of that, we are asking stop the AAPI community hate crime. This is not acceptable. You know what, we actually had almost a year, almost 4,000 hate crimes against the AAPI. You know what, this pandemic is not brought by Asian American community. This came from China. Let's make it very clear about that. So in Congress, actually, the Congresswoman Katie Porter and I introduced the House of AAPI, hate crime against the AAPI. So we are working on it. Out of 4,000 incidents that it's been happening for almost a year, 44% happened in California. What does that mean? Means that, we've been closing down our businesses almost a year. I think it's time to open. An Asian American community should not be the scapegoat. We really have to work with them. We all here because we love America. We achieved the American dream, especially Leisure World residents. They are all achieved the American dream, so that's why they are living here. And they love America. This is our country. We cannot accept any hate crime. When I was Board of Supervisor chair in Orange County, we worked very closely together with the sheriff and district attorney to stop hate crime against the other communities. Now this is happening for AAPI. Let's make sure that we hold hands. We're going to go after them. Especially this person who sent a letter to the widow who just had the funeral of losing her husband and go back to your country. Go back to where? This is our country. We really have to stay here, and we're going to raise our voice, and we're going to live here together. Especially California, we have a lot of Asian American populations. We have to support each other. not hate each other. Let's not divisive, let's not hate, let's work together, and let's live just really great life. This is the perfect place that you can have nice place, slow down a little bit. You are enjoying your life here, and you can play golf, you can swim, you go to church. This is the perfect place. Hate is not acceptable. So we should not do that, and let's make sure, let's raise our voice, and let's stop hate crime all from America. And New York and California highest, we should really stop that. And I am really appreciative that you all set up this meeting here, and this is really needed. We really have to speak up, and I'm glad that everybody joined today, that we all agree, let's stop hate crime, especially against the AAPI, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Brian Harmon, Vice President of the Regional Republican Club.
There are very few things here that transcend party politics, and one of them is racism. The leadership team of the Republican Club wants everyone to know that we have no patience with those who practice racism and hatred. There is no excuse for racial hate. Community unity has been the overriding theme of the Leisure World Weekly for the past year. And we support what the paper is doing to encourage the feeling that we're all in this together. We reject and continue to stand against racism in all of its forms. We believe in and respect all people. And we fight for respectful treatment of everyone. America has come a long way towards the goal stated by Martin Luther King over 50 years ago. I look to a day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Let's continue the fight. I am no expert, but I feel I can sum up the Asian American experience in one sentence. Asian Americans are just like other Americans, only maybe a little bit more so. The reason I say this is that many of the rest of us have lost sight of what the American dream really is. The American dream started when the first colonists founded Jamestown in 1607. 13 years later, the Pilgrims came to be able to freely express the religious feelings that they had without interference from the government. But the Jamestown settlers came to make a better living for their families. They wanted to make lots of money. They wanted their children to have the best that life offered. About 70 years later, in 1776, the Declaration of Independence declared that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that includes everybody. Thank you very much.
Mary Russian, former president of Leisure World Democratic Club.
Wow, what a crowd. Thank you all for coming. As she said, my name is Mary Larson, and I am the immediate past president of the Democratic Club of Leisure World. I bring you greetings from our president, Mary Trump, who would have liked to be here but who is out of town. Normally, in this kind of situation, our Vice President, Kathy Moran, would have been speaking to you, but she is unable to because of illness. So she has prepared a prepared speech, and I'm going to read it to you so I don't fluff it up. This is what Kathy had to say. The Leisure World Democratic Club is happy to join the many voices of Orange County speaking out against all forms of inflammatory rhetoric and outrageous statements aimed at our Asian American and Pacific Island neighbors. Our club, as well as the Democratic Party as a whole, is committed to protecting and defending the rights of all citizens. Together, our party is committed to the following goals. We will not fan the flames of hate, nor will we give hate a safe haven or legitimize the voices of racism. Instead, we will work to protect and defend the rights of all our neighbors. Racial injustice that stains the fabric of our community and our nation must not be tolerated. Let us not make any mistakes. Leisure World needs to be a place where all residents feel safe and are treated with equality and justice. We must demand it, and we deserve it as Americans and as residents of Leisure World. That concludes what Kathy had to say, but there's something else I want all of us to consider. As Councilwoman Steele told you just a few minutes ago, a resolution was introduced in Congress on February 23rd as H.R. 153. It is now awaiting action in the House Committee on Judiciary. This resolution states, among other things, that the House of Representatives calls for, quote, federal law enforcement officials working with state and local officials to expeditiously and vigorously investigate all reports of Asian American and Pacific Islander hate crimes and threats in the United States, unquote. That they, quote, hold the perpetrators of these crimes, incidents, and threats accountable and bring the perpetrators to justice, unquote. As Representative Steele said, House Resolution 153 was introduced by her and with Katie Porter, a Democrat in Congress who is probably one of the most progressive Democrats in Congress. It was joined by, as co-sponsors for this resolution, by Representatives Republican Young Kim and Democrats Alan Lowenthal, Luis Correa, and the three of these represent Orange County constituents, and was also joined later by Democratic Meg Levin, who represents Orange County's 48th Congressional District. If this show of bipartisan exists in a deeply divided Congress, we can do no less in Leisure World itself. We cannot give any expression of hate or safe haven or legitimize the voices of racism. We must work together to protect and defend the rights of all our neighbors. This resolution, the full text of 153, is available online. I will also publish it in the Leisure World Weekly next week. If you have any questions about it or you want any more information on it, you can email me. My email address is always in the paper every week under the Democratic column. So that's all I have to say from the Democratic Club. But I would like to introduce our former Congressman, Harley Ruda. Thank you. As I stumble off.
Thank you. Harley Luda, former congressman. Scott.
Good morning. Let me start with thanking the Korean American Association of Leisure World for inviting me to speak at this event. I'm honored to be here today to say clearly and unequivocally that we stand united against racism and hate against the Asian American Pacific Islander community. And right here in this community with our very own Mrs. Choi. In the last 12 months, we've seen that words matter. We've seen the consequences of racism and the violence and hate crimes towards Asian Americans, which have surged by 150% in major cities across the United States. And we've seen that violence right here in Orange County too. In fact, Orange County alone has experienced a 10-fold increase in hate crimes from 2019 to 2020. Let me repeat that. From 2019 to 2020, 10-time increase in violence and hate crimes right here in Orange County. We've seen hate begin with a word or a slur and turn into a crime. But we also need to understand that this discrimination did not start with the pandemic. There is an ugly history of discrimination and hate against Asian Americans in our country, in our state, and here in Orange County. It takes all of us to acknowledge and understand that history so we can create a community that treats everyone with the dignity they deserve. And we must make sure we leave this history of discrimination behind us and commit ourselves going forward to a future of mutual respect and support and love. Thanks again to the Korean American Association of Leisure World for inviting me to speak at this event. Take care.
Thank you. Claudia Choi is a daughter of the late Byung Che. Is coming.
First, on behalf of the Choi family, I'd like to start by thanking Congresswoman Steele, the Golden Rain Foundation, and everyone who's come out today in this incredible show of support. When our father passed away last month, we were unable to be with him due to COVID restrictions. We thought that was the most difficult thing that we would have to endure. Then we had to wait for weeks to receive his ashes and hold a funeral, which prolonged the grief and pain. But last week, receiving this racist and hate-filled letter just days after his funeral felt incredibly cruel. Of course, that was the point. Whoever wrote this wanted to torment and terrorize a widow at her most vulnerable moment because of her race. We contacted the management of Leisure World, the police, the FBI, and the media because in light of recent hate crimes against Asian Americans, we felt it was important to show that these things do not just happen out there. These things can happen in a community even as safe as Leisure World. The police responded immediately, and the next morning, the Golden Rain Foundation released a strongly worded statement denouncing this and all acts of hate and racism. They have been further supporting that announcement with real and substantial initiatives, including the Raise Your Hands in Unity campaign, strengthening the member code of conduct, and even organizing this rally today. But the most touching and healing part of this week has been the outpouring of support our family has received from the residents here at Leisure World. So many of you have reached out with letters and cards and visits and phone calls. People who knew my parents and people who had only just heard of this incident on the news. My parents' neighbors want them to know that they are loved and supported. and that bigotry has no place in this neighborhood. And so this is what I ask each of you to do, not just today, but every day. We need to expose and denounce acts of racism and hate, support and protect our neighbors of all colors, and together make our communities a better and safer place for everyone. Thank you.
Pastor Joe Kim will play the music for us.
Good morning. For this special, meaningful meeting, and I would like to play Grazing Amaze, followed by Ariran.
Thank you. Ren Villanueva, Filipino Association of Regional World.
If you can bear with me for a few minutes, I have to look for my cheat sheets because I cannot remember what I wrote a moment ago. Congresswoman Michelle Steele, ex-Congressman Ruda, Mr. Uncanny, members of the board of the Golden Rain Foundation, my fellow residents of Leisure World, and to the family of Mr. Byung Choi, I bid you all good morning. My name is Ren Villanueva. I am the president of the Filipino Association here in Leisure World. 6 years ago, my wife and I retired from our gainful employment and we decided to downsize our lives because our children have already flown out from the coop. Cleaning yards and maintaining pools has made me a slave of our house. So we decided to look for a place where we can spend maybe the last days of our lives. And we decided to come to Leisure World. Why did we choose to come to Leisure World? Because of its proximity to the beach, because it is quiet and very peaceful, and the residents here are very accommodating and very friendly. That was 15 years ago. Today, I am deeply honored to have been asked to express my personal opinion on what has been going on in our peaceful and beautiful community. It was a detestable act of cowardly and uneducated person could write such a vile and toxic letter to a newly widowed lady. I feel the heart of this family. Young Choi is the recipient of such an abhorring letter. Is one of the finest women I've ever met. He's very friendly and very loving to husband Byung. Byung is another person. He loves life, enjoys life, and he is always willing to share to everyone how he feels. He is a good singer and enjoy to play golf. And when you have ever had a chance to be with him when he sings at our karaoke club, you need an earplug. He has such a very big voice, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna miss him that much. They are both good moral standing with our Filipino club. We love them both. I can hardly comprehend how one person can develop such hatred to another human being because of his color and his ethnicity. If all of us abide by what this person wants us to do, to pack up our things and go back to where we came from, I can guarantee you that the only living things roaming among the streets of Los Angeles will be the buffaloes and the Indians. understand what I say. This country wasn't made by one color alone, but it is a contribution of a mosaic of colors that made the United States of America the greatest nation on earth. If we retraced our history, not one of you, including me, belongs to this land. Like Rodney King once said, can we not just get along together? Think about it. I would like to wish you all peace and goodwill. God bless and thank you.
Thank you. Next, the Vietnamese club members.
My name is Debbie Train, representing for Vietnamese American Club at Leisure World. We come here in order to call unity for harmony. Let's get along.
Let's get along.
Let's get along.
Let's get along.
Let's get along, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
감사합니다. 아리가또. Samana. Thank you all. We appreciate it. And as Conquest Woman said, let's celebrate unity for harmony.
Yeah, come on. Sun Hyung-jo, Dr. Jo is the Vice President of Mutual One.
Hi, what a crowd. As I stand before you, our friend, late Byung-guk Choi, known as Byung Choi, he's looking at us. From there, he's waving at us. He's waving at his wife, his daughter, especially Claudia. And what he's saying, he's greeting to you. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you gathered here all together to remember me, all the incident. But he's urging me that this is the time that we should resurrect goodness in our heart. Start loving each other. Start loving each other. That's his message. And what he's saying is that we just act upon loving thy neighbor as taught by Jesus Christ. You know, my wife just handed me about those yellow shit. Everybody read those yellow shit. You know, it's demeaning to even make a comment on this yellow letter, which is delivered to the Byung's widow on a funeral day. Can you imagine that? But please note here, this writer, I don't know he or she, used the language called freaking Asian taking over our community, white community. You know what the freaking mean is? It's a colloquial language, often used back in 1670. I never heard that, lately about using it. This is a substitute language for fucking. You fucking Asia, you go home. I mean, this guy's intent is very, very obvious. He's going to throw bombshell, poison bomb, ignite hatred in your mind. But I think whoever gathered here is going to do more than that. Its ultimate goal is is maybe one of the goals is to find out this criminal. You know, our CEO at the GRF, he's Randy Ankeny, he's putting even $5,000 for finding this criminal. I think it's going to be a matter of time to quote this guy. But purpose is not to condemn this guy. I think ultimate goal is to all of us start re-examining and reflecting our thought as to whether we ever hated other people. I did. I do sometimes. But this is a time to repent and kind of re-energize ourselves, start loving our neighbor. You know, my wife, who's sitting somewhere there, she's telling me that you shouldn't talk too long. And she's sending me all the signal. But my wife and I moved from the northern Virginia, a place called Vienna, Virginia. And the first impression moving over down here wasn't that good. You know, but we started loving this community. Not because of building, because community. Everybody loving each other. So I tell other people, even though my wife said to cut it off, I'm going to just keep doing this. I tell them, my wife, I'm living in an island utopia. You know, utopia was coined by the Sir Thomas More. He wrote such a short novel called Island Utopia. This place exactly similar to what Sir Thomas More described back in 1516. You know, we start loving it. I'm sure none of you will be influenced by this poison bomb. And the guy or person, I don't know, woman or man, he or she, whoever coined it, used the word thinking Asian. That's a demeaning. But I like to just close up my remark just raising two questions. Can we afford not to eradicate hate from our heart and start loving each other? Can we? Second question is, can we keep silence hoping that that's going to be fade away? You know, I know the answer. Today's a date to make a resolution on translating your answer, my answer into the action. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is closing remarks by Grace Kim, former president of the Korean American Association.
I would like to begin by thanking all of our wonderful speakers for being here today and for adding passion and strength to our gathering. And I would like to thank each of you for taking the time to be part of this event, to be counted, and to stand up against hate. I am inspired by all of you. What we have heard today and in recent days should be clear to everyone. Hate, discrimination, and the acts of violence against the Asian Americans and the Pacific Islanders will no longer be tolerated. There is no room in Orange County, in California, in all of America, and throughout the world for racism, racist attitude, and intolerance. And I think the world is finally learning that the Asian American and the Pacific Islanders community has been a target of racism, violence, and discrimination for too long. It has been happening in the United States for years, not a decade, but centuries. In the past, we were willing to be quiet about it. Maybe we even accepted that, but no more. Our community is now awake. We are determined, fierce, and energized. And here is the important thing. We will no longer be silent. Those days are over. We will stand up. We will stand out. We will use our voice. And let us be clear. Asian Americans are not foreigners. We are Americans. We are an important part of this country, and we are here to stay. Also, I think it is very important to recognize that we cannot do this alone. There is a strength in numbers, and we are so lucky to have a large coalition working with us every step of the way. I would like to thank our brothers and sisters in many different communities, especially the Black, Latino, Jewish, and LGBTQ community. They are standing with the Asian American community. They are adding their voices, and they are showing solidarity with us. They have been there for us in a very visible way. And I think it is so important for us to be there for them, to stand with them and support them more than we have done in the past. For now, let me say that when different communities, multicultural communities, come together to say no more violence, no more racism and discrimination, we will outnumber the voices of hate in our society. So let's continue to build a strong multicultural coalition and stand together as one. Let us continue to work for respect, decency, equality, and acceptance of all people. Let us strive for a world in which we can fully understand and embrace the people whose backgrounds are different from us. And very importantly, let us continue to add our voices to stand up and speak out anytime the situation calls for it. The Asian American and the Pacific Islander community is an important part of this community. Seal Beach, Leisure World, as well as Orange County and all over California and the entire country. We are here to stay. We will continue to contribute to a better community. And I believe we will lead the way along with our brothers and sisters in other communities of color in building a world that's more inclusive, tolerant, caring, accepting, and loving. Let's devote everything we have, our time and the energy, in order to achieve the ideal world. Together, we can do that. I think some of you already signed up. Today, after the rally, if some of you have time, you can go to South Gate, not outside, but inside the gate. And then some of you can go to main gate inside the building area. And then our officers will bring picket for you. So we are going to stand there for 1 hour. Then from tomorrow, every single day, we are going to do the same thing. South Gate and the main gate. So please sign up. We have a sign-up sheet on the table so that we will continue to do that Tuesday through Saturday. And see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you for all speakers. Please see this side with the picket. Please see this side with the picket. One time.
Itaas mo para makita yung mukha mo. Para mo. You know, my oldest daughter. Oh, you can put it down too. Put it down. Where you go from? Go front.
Your eyes disappear, right?